G'day, SuperCoaches. Strap in. Welcome to the official AFL SuperCoach podcast. You're in our guide to the greatest game on this big blue marble we call the planet Earth, gentlemen. It is AFL SuperCoach. Round 22 is in the bag. We're looking forward to a massive round 23. I'm your host, Jaymz Clements. Joining me today, we've got three of the greatest minds on the planet as well. Well, SuperCoach minds. Let's just be very, very honest. Come on.
Go to SuperCoach.
Over there, that's the stats guy. He's back.
I'm back. Very good to be back on the show. Definitely rather be talking SuperCoach than North Melbourne on the AFL Today show. So happy to talk SuperCoach.
In between us is Al Payton, the guru.
Thanks, James. Nice to have you back. Looking nice and tanned after your time up
I don't
north.
know about that.
I got a stunning turn. This ginger tan, I'll tell you what. I got way more freckles. And we are bringing on a very good friend of the program, Mr. Mentality himself, Pig Mentality from Dr. SuperCoach, talking all things captains. It is a really fun chat, Al. We hit on a lot of different things, a lot of different approaches for how captains are chosen, who he looks at, what he's looking at, some of his hits from this year, all that sort of good stuff. It is really fun. So you better stick around for that. Or Stats Gotta Be Weird and Basher. But this is, of course, proudly brought to you by the SuperCoach Plus. Go check that out for all your projections, your break-evens, and just get out there and dominate. You've only got a couple of weeks left. You better be all around that.
Finals, in SuperCoach for most leagues, isn't it?
It's
in Classic.
Prelim week.
Prelim week, yeah.
Absolutely crucial for your finals, just to make sure that you're smashing your mates. Right, let's wrap round 22 very quickly. Heroes and villains. I had a shocking week. So, in a surprise twist, obviously. But we had some incredible scores this week, Al. And
2,900 was the number one score of the week.
That is unbelievable.
That is an absolutely incredible score. And I was looking at mine. Why doesn't mine look like that? Le Grill? What the hell is Le Grill? That's how bad mine was. It was so bad. So I have a couple of heroes, though, because Gordon did pop off. Of course, I'm an idiot. Never, ever underestimate my ability to be just a moron. I think we talked this out maybe towards the end of our AFL show last week, right? I'm like, vice captain. I'm feeling Gornicus. He's going to go bang. It's going to be awesome. And then, of course, day of, change it to Caleb Serrone. So 114 versus 177, break them half. Gordon did at least get the 177. And Jason Horne-Francis.
Oh, yeah.
The pod.
I think you might just be a year early on him.
This might be my problem. I'm just a little bit early. 141 this weekend. He was fantastic. And, of course, Zach Butters. But my villains. I'm rife with villains. I'm like a superhero movie. There's villains everywhere. It's like one of those bad team-up movies where you're like, we've got to get more than one villain. There's 3 of them. You're like, I've got 7. Shush. Like Tom Stewart sucked. Nick Dacos sucked. Sam Walsh, what happened? You're getting plenty of the pill. You're just stinking it up though, Sammy. Errol Goulden, he had 80. That was shocking. Clary Oliver.
Steel side bottom tag he got.
Yeah.
Got 38 from Oliver.
Oh, yeah.
17 from Curnow before he went off injured. And only 81 from Luke Jackson, which I know was like a little, as soon as Sean Darcy was listed as out, it's like, you could maybe slap the VC on him, see what happens. No. I think I'd already used my VC, but still.
They played against him well, Geelong, yeah.
I'm almost, he's right on the brink, and I'm almost hoping he doesn't get DPP next year, so we can't pick him because he's just
I don't think I'll be picking him next year. But
Too tempting. So I ended up with 22-10. It was horrifying. Such a bad score. How about you, Stats Boy?
What did I end up on? 23-34. Really disappointed after some really good weeks. The last month I've been really happy, and then I come on the show and I have to say my bad score. But anyway, my villain, I'm just going to go one out, was definitely Tim English. I was filthy with him, 85. He hasn't had back-to-back hundreds since round 12, which I think I got him in about round 14 or something like that, or round 15 when his sort of price came a bit down. I'm so annoyed that I've picked him. Grundy and English at the moment, so they can be my 2 villains, actually. Just my rucks. 84 and 85. That is usually your rucks, as we are going to talk about later with the pig mentality. Usually you can bank on the rucks getting big scores, but not my rucks at the moment, so they're my villains. And then my hero, Isaac Heaney. He was just amazing. Obviously dominated in the last quarter, which we touched on the AFL Today show. 14 disposals, 3 clearances, and a goal in the last quarter to get 144. He's definitely my hero, and I think he's back. I think he's going to get some consistent scores from the rest of the year.
I even left out Jai Caldwell in my villains as well.
I forgot about him. Yeah,
God,
55, yeah.
Al.
Yes, 2,568 for me, so I was pretty happy with that. Jump back above the Phantom. We've been leapfrogging each other each week. So that was pretty good. 511 in the ranks, so dreaming of that top 500 finish, still alive. But we've touched a little bit on Curnow. We'll talk more about him soon, but that if he doesn't play this week, I could be looking at a donut, so that might put an end to those. dreams, but we'll monitor that during the week. Obviously, I used my last trade going into this round. Been hanging on to Zach Fisher all this time, hoping he'd come back. Wasn't picked again. And then Billy Dowling got dropped, who I've been using as cover. So it would have had a 0. So I traded in Isaac Rankin, and he was okay, 76. So... yeah, I mean, I'll take that. The other guys, I was looking at Caldwell, so I'm glad I didn't pick him.
Glad you didn't get him.
And the Phantom was trying to talk me into Jamara Ugle-Hagen, and he started really well, but had 30 points after about 5 minutes, and I thought, oh no, I've missed the boat here, but he finished on about 50. So I think Rankin was the right call. Hopefully he gets some decent numbers in the next couple of rounds. In terms of my hero, honourable mentions to the Freo defenders, Luke Ryan and Jordan Clark's been a great pick for me, but they were back absolutely pigging out like they were earlier in the year. 156 from Ryan, 138 from Clark.
That's because they were just kicking it back and forth.
That's
exactly.
what they do.
That's what we love.
Each other, yeah. We love that on SuperCoach.
If you're a Freo fan, I don't know how impressed you'd be, but for SuperCoach, absolute gold. But my hero has to be Tristan Cherry. I should have got him when Gawn got injured. I traded in Nank, and then Nank got concussed, which was really painful that week, but I then finally made the right move and got Cherry in. He's been unbelievable the last 3 weeks, and now the number 1 scoring ruck in SuperCoach. He's projected to be over $700,000
That is crazy.
next week after starting at about $400K. So if you picked him at the start of the year, just absolutely incredible. He's the number 1 player in the AFL for tackles since round 17. So that's where he's getting a heap of his points.
I absolutely love him.
You would, as a North fan.
Yeah,
How good is
so
he? I mean,
good. All Australian.
And Goldie playing in the VFL for
at the start, I think I said this on the other show, AFL Today, everyone, all North fans were like, oh, should we really get rid of Goldie? He's still all right. Cherry's still got to work through his issues in the ruck, and then he's just turned into the best ruck in the comp, so I'm happy.
Yeah, he's been awesome.
All-Australian question mark.
Yes.
Yeah,
Very nice.
yeah, definite question. But a couple of quick villains you've touched on already. Curnow, terrible. Bailey Dale, shocking. I forgot he was even in that game. I was watching the Bont, watching Rankin, and then I was scrolling all the way down, and there's Bailey Dale on 45. That was terrible. But the one who's really driving me a bit crazy is Lockie Neal, just because I spent a heap of money. I think he was $670,000 4 weeks ago. I traded, people who've watched the show all year know how much Matt Rao was driving me nuts. So finally got rid of him. Spent about $250,000 to trade him up to Lockie Neal, who was averaging about 150 at that point. And since then, in 4 weeks, Neal has scored 2 more points than Matt Rao.
2, really? Oh.
So it's about 130 grand per point or something. So
That's brutal.
yeah, it's tough. So another 87 on the weekend, copped another tag, which I sort of knew was coming. But hopefully he's no more tags for the next couple of rounds, hopefully, and he can get back to that 140, 150 scoring for me.
250 grand. I'm not going to, for 2 points, I'm not going to take financial advice from you. Wow, jeez. That's chaos.
That's not good.
But I mean, this, like, we sort of hit on this with pig mentality as well. Like, buying in on primos when they've sort of hit almost top price. It's one thing that you got to sort of like have in the back of your brain that
Can
it
they
might still
sustain
come
it?
down.
Yeah, I mean, I sort of knew that he wouldn't keep up that level, and I sort of thought at the end of the year I only had 1 or 2 trades left, and I had the money, so may as well spend it. But even then, probably would have been better looking for someone a bit cheaper.
Hopefully rips off 180 for you this week. Just saying.
could.
All right, let's do some SuperCoach news, injury, suspensions, gear. Obviously, the big one is Charlie Curnow. The ankle that he rolled against the Hawks on the weekend, kind of sank the Blues' finals chances perhaps, which hurts my heart. On top of that, if you own him in SuperCoach, which a lot of people do, this is the worst possible timeout because they play the West Coast Eagles this week. And I don't know, does Curnow have a pretty good track record? Oh, yes, he does. He
kicks 10 or 9 or 10.
Smashing the Eagles to basically win himself a Coleman. And so for him to be out at this exact moment in time is brutal on at least a few fronts. And we're still waiting news on how bad it was. So there's nothing out there.
Even if he does play, though.
They just, Voss said after the game that, this is just something we're going to have to manage. He's been carrying it for a couple of weeks. So it wasn't instantly saying he's gone for the rest of the year or anything like that. So still a chance he gets up. And as you say, this is the game that a lot of us traded him in for, really. Scored 180 twice, basically, against the Eagles last year. So fingers crossed he gets up because, as I said, no more trades. And maybe Billy Dowling, unless he comes back in. But after the Crows win, probably unlikely.
Maybe not,
it could be caught short when a lot of people will be in a similar position.
Just need Sean Mannett to fire one more time.
Yeah, another 95 would be handy.
Charlie Curnow is owned by 34,414 coaches at the moment.
Really?
So if you do have trades, that'll be like the one sort of last one. Like I've still got one in the gun, and it's sort of like it might be Charlie, but I'll get to sit on it for the rest of the week, basically until we find out more.
Teams, yeah.
But geez. Inopportune, Al. Inopportune. Adam Sard, also, look, he has been a SuperCoach favourite across the years here and there. It's like a bit of a pod for your defensive nous.
Draft as well, people might
Draft is very handy too. Hammy, Just another one of those Carlton hammies. Jeez, oh God. In terms of his outlook, basically that's his season, regular season done, and probably even if, Carlton probably have to make the grand final for him to play. Come back. Come on, boys, do it for Sardi. But this hurts my heart because we don't get to hear the woof the rest of the way.
Yeah.
But I don't know, in terms of his SuperCoach impact, Al, what do you reckon?
I don't think he's in a heap of teams, but I know Tim Mitchell picked him up a couple of weeks ago. So this is really for Tim.
So Tim Mitchell put the moz on him.
He has cursed a few players, but
and Carlton as well. So it wasn't a fun day for him yesterday.
Oh, very brutal. Outside of this, Harry Sheezel, this is a test on the ankle, isn't it? It's look at it.
It looked bad. I was watching the game, and as a North supporter, I'm very worried because the whole game he was just hobbling, and then they played him forward for a quarter. Then we're like, oh wait, Eagles are coming back. We'll put him back in the midfield. So he's still got a really good score of 122, I think. But I don't see him playing this week. I feel like he might be out north. We don't have anything to play for. And he looked really bad. I don't want anything bad to happen to Harry Sheezel. He is god of North Melbourne at the moment.
So that'd be massive if he's out. He's
I reckon
the second most owned player in SuperCoach. So, I mean, North training all week is always, Zach Fisher for a while. Now we don't have to worry about him so much anymore. But Colby McKercher, there's always seems to be an injury cloud over him. And now Sheezel as well. So
he didn't look good, but we don't know. Huge watch. We don't know yet. Yeah.
That is brutal. You need to get down there with like cotton wool and just like go, I will wrap him up.
All North supporters will wrap him up for sure.
But not for SuperCoach, Stats Boy.
No. Yeah, true, actually. Yeah. Get him back out there.
Ankles at this time of year. It's like an absolute Lockie Whitfield as well. Like reports of an ankle tweak for him too. So
Adam Kingsley said he might have got it stood on during the game. So he played out the match, so hopefully okay. But another one to watch.
What else we got? Matthias Philippou, he was laid out because he was
that was
sick.
brutal for a lot of people who have him. But just an illness. So hopefully you think he'd be right to go next week.
Sean Darcy, I mean, this didn't. Ideally, that helps your Luke Jackson, and it just didn't
really affect it at all.
So it doesn't matter. But knee soreness apparently, and again, Longby was saying that'll be something we'll manage. I think they had a 6-day break, so I'm not sure what the break is for next week. But they'll be just sort of managing him through the rest of the year. So maybe it means Jackson gets a bit more time in the ruck. But as you said, he was rucking Patrick Voss in the last quarter, which I thought was just trolling super coaches, Justin Longmuir. So I don't know if it's going to make any difference to Jacko.
I like that. We need to send someone to one of the press conferences and go, Justin, what were you doing? Come on.
Wait, think of the super coaches.
They do have the early game Saturday against GWS this week, so it'll be interesting to see if he
still a fair
should be all right on the plane. Get over there, see how it goes.
Dr.
Same
Jim
time if he
there.
doesn't. I'm like not a medical doctor, but still. And Will Day was subbed out in the third quarter with cramps, so.
That was smashing him.
They were killing him. I think that's
just,
fine.
Just a tough call for. I know a couple of people over in the Lair in Phantoms World in South Australia picked up Will Day as a nice pod a few weeks ago, and he has been scoring pretty well, but got tagged last week, and then I think he only had 30-something points this week and got subbed out. So that could have ended a few finals campaigns.
Nice one. All right, what are the biggest talking points after round 22? Number one, Charlie Curnow. How do 34,000 coaches replace him?
Jeez. If he's out.
If he is out, of course. I still do have Sean Manor from Heaven on my bench, so I don't have to, but at the same time, I think I actually may have to because I think Manor is now going to be like cover for another injury that I had. So, Curnow, my vibe, and I'm going to hit on this later for my Monday moves. Harry Mackay, question mark? Let's go.
He should get more touches, but if Carlton going to get the ball down there enough is the
West Coast.
Against West Coast, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Charlie had 186 and 178 against West Coast last year.
Yeah.
I was at one of those games. It was beautiful. Now,
even if he has one leg, should they just wheel him out there because he could kick
stick him in the goal square.
Yeah, stick him in the goal square.
Not bad. Why not? The way he's been playing, though, he probably just didn't say.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing where he scored 33 the week before and then 17. So it was 45 points or something in 2 weeks.
He's not helped by Carlton Mids just bombing it over his head.
No. Yeah. The trade options, Al. James Peatling. That's an interesting one. He's had a pretty handy 4-week run, 93, 133, 96, 100.
Yeah, I like him mid-forward. The issue has just been that he's been the sub a few times. I think he scored before this 4-week bracket. He scored 13 the week before that because he has been used as a sub a few times. But it seems like he's got a safe place in the team now, hopefully. And, scoring pretty well. So you only need sort of 20K to get to him from Curnow. Another Carlton player that seems to be the most popular option at this stage is Matt Kennedy. He scored 119 on the weekend. He's only 3,000 more expensive than Curnow. What do you think of his prospects?
Well, I think they're being forced to use him a lot more. There was like, to be honest, my entire vibe on like where Carlton all just went wrong in the middle of the year is when they're throwing like George Hewitt as the sub, Kennedy still playing like a bung knee, and it all sort of just like got a bit wonky on them. But now they've just like been forced, like with Chera being out, with
he'll get more of the ball.
He's basically just having to play like their third midfielder. So I actually really, really like the Kennedy look because he's going to get plenty of the pill. They've got West Coast, they've got St Kilda. He'll be wildly important to that Carlton team for the run home. So at that price point, I kind of love it because he's all they've got left, question mark. Yeah. I don't mind it a lot. Tom Powell.
I love a bit of Tom Powell. He's had that middle period where everyone probably brought him in. I didn't bring him in. I didn't have enough money for him, I think, at the time. But that middle period, everyone's like, oh, he's just dropped off. But he's back. What has he had? 101, 105, 123. He's been really good. I don't mind that. 425. He's had a better average than a lot of other guys that people have brought in. So don't mind a bit of Tom Powell.
There's also Jamari Ugle-Hagan, as you mentioned. Al started off like great guns and then fell apart, just like the rest of the Bulldogs in that game.
Yeah. His last month has been really good, but yeah, I mean, it's just so hard to predict. Like the Dogs were so hot and then they put out a performance like that. So, I mean, obviously he relies on the supply coming in.
Yep.
Yeah, they played at the Adelaide Oval. And
they don't know how to play there.
Sam Draper is 468. Oh, interesting.
He's been like, yeah, I mean, he wouldn't be at the top of your list, but he's been surprisingly good and he's a ruck forward, which I didn't even realise until I looked that up. So, yeah, with Goldie in the twos, as we said.
Yeah.
He's an option. We'll say that.
Fascinating. Cozzy Pickett, 377
well,
as
just like I was trying to find someone cheaper than Curnow if you don't have any money.
Yep.
And it's
he's
really
the only
hard.
one kicking goals down there, to be fair.
So, I mean, he scored really well on the weekend. Obviously, he's extremely hot and cold, but when he turns it on, he can score some points.
Interesting.
But you're in a pretty tough position if you're going there.
I think you've got to try and get Jesse Hogan if you have any cash at all, but it's such a big upgrade because Jesse's going to have an awesome finish. He's going to win the Coleman. He's going to be fired up. He's just been kicking 4 goals every week for fun. So, but he's 100K extra than everyone else. So makes it tough. But if you can, then you got to try and get it.
If you've got one trade left and 100K in the bank, like,
I don't know where that's coming from.
More power to you. That's awesome. Like, you're a legend. We should just let you win the comp at this point. Speaking of which, the chase for 50K, Al. Let's do it.
Yes.
Update of the overall rankings of AFL SuperCoach. I love this. Who have we got at the top? This is a great looking squad. Cadiz crew.
Yeah, so with only 2 weeks to go, I think he is in a great position chasing that SuperCoach title of the champion of 2024 and the 50 grand that goes with it. Scored 2.725 on the weekend. He's got a 130-point lead on second, who is Dot, Benjamin's team, who jumped up into second on the weekend. He scored over 2,700 as well. Oof. But just looking at some of the differences between these two teams, they both got Cherry and Gawn in the ruck, which obviously was massive on the weekend.
Huge. I would have got a lot better on the weekend.
Yeah, pretty jealous of that.
Yeah, very jealous.
But like looking in the midfield, Nathan, the number 1 coach at the moment, has Sam Walsh, Connor Rosie and Errol Goulden, and the number 2 has Neil Dunkley and LDU in those spots. So Neil and Dunkley against the Pies maybe could gain some points. In the forward line, Cadiz crew, the number 1 team, has our man Luke Jackson and Dylan Moore, but he's coming up against Isaac Rankin and Jai Simpkins. So I don't know. There are areas there where you think the number 2 could gain an edge in the last couple of rounds.
Well, I think Dylan Moore could absolutely have a field day
against the
Tigers. Like that's kind
Simpkins
of
a bit inconsistent.
Simpkins very up and down.
Then did they play North in the last round, Hawthorn?
Yes.
Yeah, so a couple of good matchups there.
Yeah.
Wow. So he's 130 points ahead at the moment.
Yes.
That's a handy little gap there.
Yes.
I thought it would be a bit closer than that, yeah.
And then the Caleb Windsor knot is at Jovan in 3rd.
Yes, he's another 91 points further back. So he's got Rowan Marshall in the ruck instead of Gawn. So it cost him a few points on the weekend, but Marshall has been really good. And I think Pig will get into it later that he's got a great run home and a really good matchup this weekend. So could be a chance for him to jump up a little bit.
Nice one. Well, I think there is a great article on codesports.com.au at the moment about some of the best matchups that we're looking at this week as well. So we do cover this a lot with Pig Mentality about some of the best teams, the best names you could be looking at for this week for your VCs, your Cs. We talk about this in Captain's Call with him as well. But some of the matchups that we'll be looking at and some of the teams that have been shocking of late, obviously your beloved Tigers, Al, giving up the most points to both midfielders and defenders. Not great. Melbourne and Collingwood are very, very easy mid matchups as well. We've seen that proven time and time again so far this season. Sydney and Brisbane are the hardest matchups for your midfielders. So you think about
makes sense.
Brisbane are playing Collingwood this week. You have Sydney playing Essendon. So if you're sitting there relying on like Nick Dacos and Zach Merritt, you're like, oh, God.
Joe Caldwell.
Right, Joe Caldwell. God, this
Joe Caldwell as well, yeah.
And West Coast and Geelong have proven to be the easiest ruck matchups. So there is a really, 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 really good dig down on codesports.com. You go check that out. Some of the ones to maybe benefit: Noah Anderson, James Sicily, Lachie Neale, Rowan Marshall, Mark Pitnet.
wait. How's Mark Pitnet
if you've got Pitto, like, again.
It is against West Coast too, fair.
Well, I just threw in there because, I mean, I don't really know what situation you'd be in that you're trading in Mark Pittner. But if you're coming into it's the last game of the round.
Yeah.
If you're tracking your live scores, you're in a prelim and you're 150 points behind and you got one trade left. He's only 430K. The last 2 weeks, the rucks against West Coast. Cherry scored 185 on the weekend. The week before, Jared Witt scored 161.
Jeez.
Don't know if Pitto's quite in that.
He don't have the same ceiling.
He's in 638 teams. So
he's got 638 family members.
That was 600 more than I thought.
Great.
That could be a fun little pod there. I don't know.
I do have him for draft.
Well, there you go.
So once TDK went down, I grabbed Pitto, but I don't know if I'll be starting him over Tinglish.
The whole time, so it's not a bad idea.
Interesting. Good stuff. All right, let's go have a chat with Pig Mentality. This is a really, really fun one. Enjoy. It's also got Captain's Call in there. It is a rip snorter. Snorter. See it? Pigs. Don't want it. Get stuck in. All right, and now we welcome on because, look, Phantom has just cowarded it out, I think, this week, Al. Just saying, because maybe someone jumped ahead of him in the standings. But in place of him, we actually have one of the more unique SuperCoach brains out there. That's right. We've finally brought on Pig Mentality from Dr. SuperCoach. He is the guru of picking captains. It's awesome to have you on, Mr. Mentality. Thanks for joining us.
No problem at all, guys. It's nice to jump on the official SuperCoach podcast and chat with you guys, chat through some things. Like you said, captains have been going pretty well this year. We can talk about kind of how we go through picking them. Just have a general chat about SuperCoach because it's a pretty fun hobby we play. It's coming towards the end of the year. So I don't know what we're going to do for the rest of the year, but we'll find something, I'm sure.
SuperCoach NBL's coming up.
Yeah, SuperCoach NBL.
We've got SuperCoach NBL. We've got SuperCoach BBL.
Yeah.
I'm going to be working Stats Boy to the bone.
Yeah,
it's going to be awesome.
That,
Let's start, though, with your name, Pig Mentality. Where does this come from?
Yeah, it probably started a few years ago. So I was mainly playing SuperCoach as just league rivalries with my friends rather than kind of going for rank or anything. And I had I can't remember what my team name is. It was something really boring like the Jokers or something like that. And then I decided that wasn't good enough. I wasn't setting a good enough example. I wanted my players to all become pigs. Wanted them all to have the pig mentality. So I thought I'll just make my team name that, give them all the edge. That's essentially where it came from. And it's kind of, I guess, in like correspondence with people, it now just gets shortened to pig. So a lot of times, like when I'm talking to people, it'll just be, "Hey, pig, how you going?" So
that's awesome. That's
we had a Dr. SuperCoach catch up in person earlier in the year, and like not many people know my real name. It's just, "G'day, pig, how you going?" Which I think is pretty fun.
I like that you at least have like the optimistic approach of like, I've got a pig mentality. Yeah. I do like. If we just called my team, it'd be like Jimmy Spuds. But I mean, this is the Scott part. I have 100% Spud mentality. Yeah, that's how my team rolls. Absolutely not. Like mine is actually like King Deli's tins. It's basically like all of my players been on the piss like the entire time.
Yeah, that's what it feels like.
All year. It's been shocking. So anyway, where do you want to start talking captains here, Al?
Well, yeah, captain's obviously always super important in SuperCoach, but especially coming into knockout finals, prelim final this weekend. And not many of us have trades left, so where can you get an edge? And getting the best captain score is really the best way to do it, I think. And, if you listen to Pig's videos each week that he does for Dr. SuperCoach, just a fantastic resource that I've been using for most of the year to try and nail those VC and C picks each week. So can you just take us through a bit of the process? How did you hone in on that being a real specialty? And, you can give us a rundown of your record this year, but you haven't missed too many.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're right. When we've got no trades left or, a lot of times you're in prelim finals, you might only have 5 unique players or something like that. So the captains can be kind of your one point of difference to get a good score. So for me, I guess it's a few things. Like a large part of it is looking at the opponent they're playing that week. There's some really good players in really good form, but if they're coming up against, if it's a ruckman, say, coming up against Jared Witts that wins all the hit-outs, you might not want to target them. It's really about targeting guys that have a really nice matchup. We can talk about rucks as well in particular because they, I think, are probably the easiest to predict because when they come up against a ruckman that doesn't win many hit-outs, so there's a few guys like that, Bailey Williams, Sam DeConing when he was in the ruck, even Rowan Marshall, Tim English don't win many hit-outs. So if you've got a ruckman that wins a lot of hit-outs, so that could be a Cherry, a Nankervis, someone like that, you think they're probably going to have just 40 hit-outs just based on the stats, even before you even take into account disposals, marks, goals, things like that. So it's a free potential 40 points, or if some go to advantage, even more. So looking at who they're playing is a really, really big part of it. Same for midfielders. Like at the moment, Melbourne are giving up a lot of points. Gold Coast, Collingwood have been giving up plenty. Richmond. So it's targeting those teams. But it's kind of evolved throughout the year, because at the start of the year we didn't have much data. Well, we didn't have any 2024 data. So it was relying on 2023 data, and that, some of that changed between the years. So at the start of the year, I was looking at the matchups, but also players in form. Like, we really got to take into account players' form, because I have been stung a few times this year recommending someone with a really, really, really good opponent, but they're not in form. And I don't know why, I just expected them to break out of that form slump just because they were playing an easy team. So it's a real mix of things. So now I think I've got a really nice balance of targeting the guys in form. Like, Tristan Cherry's in insane form right now. I think he's got a 3-round average of 160, and he still has two of the easiest matchups to come. So I don't think I'm moving off him anytime soon. But, Bonts just had 2 really nice games in terms of matchups. Then he gets a little bit harder. Lachie Neale's just had a few tags, but now he gets 2 teams that probably won't tag, and also aren't really in finals contention really with Collingwood and Essendon. So I think he could have a bit of a good run home. So that is my 2 mixes. It's players' form, which there was a period in the middle of the year where I kind of forgot about that part of it and was just looking at matchups.
Yep.
But yeah, looking at players' form, but then really weighting the ones that have the really nice matchup. Is kind of, I guess, the secret sauce. And yeah, it's been going pretty well. The last 2 weeks, I try and rank them as well, give them, like, if you've got this player, he'd be my number 1. But if you don't have him, then this guy. Last week, Cherry's 185 was my number 1. And the week before that, I recommended Bont, who had that 182. So we're on a little hot streak now.
Yeah.
I haven't actually done the research for this week yet to work out who'll be number 1, but the video will come out usually Wednesday arvo, so we'll find out then.
Perfect. With that in mind, has there been like one call that you've had that just really sticks out to you throughout this season where you've just gone, yes, no one saw that one coming, but I nailed it?
Yeah, there's a few, because I try and recommend a few vice captains, a few captains, but then also a pod or point of difference captain, and that's been hitting really well this year, and I've been really enjoying that, because I remember there was one early in the year where Jaymz Sicily, I think he had a season average of about 100 at that stage, just kind of going along as he was, but had that juicy matchup with Richmond that Luke Ryan had just previously destroyed. I recommend Sicily. He went off for, I think it was nearly 150. Then a few weeks later, I saw Tom de Koning had the really nice matchup with his brother, Sam's, and that was at 170. Even a few recently, like, not many people have been VCing Jack Sinclair, but his 140 the other week against West Coast, that was one of my recommendations. So there's a few out of the box ones. And from my point of view, it's actually a bit funny because I don't own a lot of these players. So I'm recommending these awesome guys and just thinking, I wish I had them.
Frustrated, yeah.
Yeah, so, that'd be really good if I had him, and I don't. But I'm getting a lot of joy this year about just out of helping other people hit those really random captains, which is quite a nice part of the content creation, I guess.
And have you developed over the years some favourites in terms of, someone like the Bond who's just, so reliable, or like, we know TDK went on this insane run for 4 or 5 weeks just because of those captain scores?
Yeah, definitely. If I went back and looked at, who's been my number 1 recommendation the most this year, I think it would probably be Max Gawn. Before he got injured. He was just incredibly reliable. And like I said, I think it's a bit easier to pick the ruckman when they'll have the big scores. So he's been someone I've really liked. Tim English going on this roller coaster at the moment where there was a stretch there he was going like 130, 170, 130, 70, 130, 70. That was actually a little bit predictable in terms of the 130s were against very, very easy opponents. So that was kind of fun to just do a little prediction and see what would happen. But yeah, no, absolutely. Max Gawn's probably been my main guy. I love kind of chasing a VC on Zach Butters just because of his ceiling as well. I love him.
Yep. And what's your VC strategy? Do you have a preferred approach? I know Supercoaches often sort of fall into two camps where some people like to just pick someone early in the round who could go bananas and some sort of a bit of a free hit, and then you pick someone safe as a backup, or others like to try and get the VC if the timing works out on the guy you think will be the highest score. So at least you're not going to miss that, hopefully. And then if that doesn't work, then you sort of try and pick someone playing after.
Yeah, mine is absolutely to VC, who I think will be my highest scorer. There's a couple of caveats. One's that you need someone safe that you could think could be like a 120 fullback playing after them. I wouldn't want to VC someone if it's if I don't have any confidence with anyone after it. And then you also need a loophole playing later. So it doesn't always work, but yeah, the VC for me, I want to chase the guy that I think will score the highest, because I don't want to VC someone that gets a 120 when I've projected, say, Bont to get a 150 later in the weekend, and I kind of know that's, or think that's coming, but then I kind of get pressured into maybe taking the 120. So that's where I go. But, there's plenty of people, like I said, that just want two cracks at a 120, and that's also quite fine because their average probably ends up pretty well.
What do you reckon the biggest score you've had on a VC is that you rolled the dice on and still went, don't care, let's go to see somebody else. We're letting it roll, baby.
Yeah. I think I had definitely 125s I've passed on this year. But then at the same time, I've taken some 115s if there hasn't really been someone after it that I've wanted. I know there's a few times, there was a Max Gorn one earlier in the year where he played a Sunday early game, and there were quite a few guys that I was thinking, they'll probably get 120s, 130s. There were some Butters and Sarongs that played before him, and everyone was getting these 130s. Really happy with it. Cool. I was getting really, really nervous saving my VC till a Sunday morning or Sunday Arvo.
Yeah.
But then I think it was that Tim English game where Max Gorn put a 170 on him or something. So it was worth the wait. But that was such a nerve-wracking because everyone was locking in these really nice VCs and I hadn't even touched mine yet.
I feel like lots of people get sucked in, me as well, wanting to put the VC on a Friday night. Do you think that's just a no-go? Just go for the bigger player or the bigger score. Do you think a lot of people go, I really want to do it on the Friday night just so it's over and done with? But we've had a lot of Friday night matchups that haven't been very Supercoach worthy. So, yeah, what do you think about that?
Look, I don't mind it. There is something to getting the VC out early and not stressing about it. I will say that is a fair point. And especially people that play sport on a Saturday or a Sunday and can't do those loopholes, that's totally fine. And sometimes I do go a Friday VC just if I'm, at a wedding that weekend and I'm not going to be active, I'll get rid of it early.
Yeah, those tins aren't going to drink themselves, right?
No, exactly. Yeah.
Exactly. But I mean, my preference is to save it for who I think's the best. But I'm not going to talk anyone out of having a Friday VC because it's fun as well to VC someone while you're watching on a Friday night after work.
True.
Are there any, obviously you've had an extremely successful run for most of the year, but were there any picks that really surprised you by bombing out totally, or even players more generally over the course of the year?
Bombing out, it's interesting because especially the guys that go on that hot run at the start of the year, I'm thinking this year Caleb Sarongs and Luke Ryans, and when you don't own them, it feels horrible and you're just seeing them putting up 130s every week and you're really upset you don't have them. But then by the end of the year, the average kind of evens out and they haven't even averaged 120. So if they're going 130 at the start of the year, it probably means they're going 110 or something in the second half of the year. So that's kind of something trying to take a learning from, I guess, which I'm sure we'll write these learnings down and then just totally ignore them next year. It happens every time. But that is quite interesting that there's actually very few players that average 120 for an entire season. So the drop-off of Luke Ryan and even Caleb Sarong to an extent has been surprising, but I don't know, maybe it shouldn't have been because not many people actually keep that up.
I like this. Got to write this down, Al.
Yeah. Are we taping this?
Yeah.
My entire thing is I think I come to the, I'm just out here throwing shade and burning trades. That's what I do, right? I'm just I just got to stop trading. I think I need a rule next year just to go, James, you literally only have 12 trades. That's it.
Yeah.
I secretly have 40, but I can only see 12, right? And then I can just I'm not going to be out here wasting it, chasing, as you said, right? I think this is the biggest thing we need to learn from these seasons, that the ones that are absolutely flaming hot, there is a long tail. to the season, right? And it's always sort of going to even out.
Not going to last.
You look at Tom Green, how he was absolutely flying earlier in the season, and you get him for a bag of chips midway through the year, and he continues to score about like a bag of chips. So it's just stuff like that, which is, the toughest things to remember at the end of a season when it's all gone pear-shaped or it's gone great guns. And then you sort of think about next year and then you just get all the excitement rolls over again, doesn't it? And you're like, here we go. We're back, boys.
Yeah, I mean, it's so hard to be in this, mentality early in the year just about how long the season is.
Yeah.
And it just that just seems so long ago that, Tom Green was pumping out 150s in the first 3 rounds and at that time you just think this is my whole team season is dead if I don't do something about it. But it's 24 rounds.
Yeah.
And how's your season gone in general, apart from obviously nailing the captains and stuff, but do you have in terms of your overall ranking, are you happy with where you landed? Are you sort of regretting some trades? I basically am regretting all 40 of mine.
Yeah. It hasn't been the season I necessarily wanted. Last year I had an incredible season finishing 95th, and it's been a huge reality check this year of not being there. I've kind of been hovering between 9K and 11K this year and not being able to move up or down, just hovering there. And it's been self-inflicted, really. There were some things I tried this year. I tried to anti-pod a few guys just for no real reason other than, if they got injured, then I'd get a leg up. So guys like Sheezel, Neil and Grundy, I specifically avoided, which was just silly. Ended up with guys like Warner and Sam de Koning and English when he was quite unique. So part of it's, I guess, being in the public eye this year, being a podcaster for the first time, I wanted to, have a really good score and got a little bit adventurous. But I think sometimes being a bit vanilla and, you see everyone getting Lachie Neale, maybe I should just get Lachie Neale too and not try and be crazy and get Chad Warner.
How's Lachie Neale going for you, Al? I'm just saying.
It hasn't been the best, but I think the round you were talking about, if you got on him then, you'd still be pretty pleased.
Yeah.
But I mean, the question I was kind of thinking of too is that, obviously you do a lot of research for the captains and it's been, you've nailed it just about every time. Do you use that when calculating trades as well? If you look ahead and say, look, Tristan Cherry's got this amazing ruck run for the next month or 6 weeks, they're the guys you want to trade in.
Yeah, I definitely do. It's probably something I could do more. I'm probably more, especially with the captain stuff, focused on quite week to week. But the data's there to be able to project it forward for 5 or 6 weeks. So it's definitely something we can look at. To predict who you should be bringing in. I mean, there are guys that kind of buck those trends and could just go on a hot streak regardless. But in general, picking the nice runs can be a really good way to do it. And not overpaying for guys, going back to what we're talking about before, when you see Sarong and Ryan just going bonkers, you don't need to pay $650 for them because they proved that they got down to $550 this year. It might not happen, when you've got the cash available to get them, but I think it's something, not overpaying for guys has been a learning as well.
That's a very good point. I feel like everyone's done that for a few players. Yeah.
Yeah, my great decision of Sarong over Bond. And me going, I went the anti-Bond as well. I don't need Bond. He's at 700K. He never came down.
Yeah.
Breaking my heart.
Well, he's probably the one, isn't he? That maybe not 700K, but he's never really come down in price. So, if he's going to be probably nearly 700K again next year, and it might be the one that you say, well, we just pay it, and then you don't have to worry about him all year.
Yeah.
Nice one. All right. Well, we usually do Captain's Call on our Monday show. So who better to do it with this week than Pig Mentality? So I thought we'd kick this around on the AFL Today show very briefly last night, didn't we, Stats Boy?
We did, yes. I've changed my mind since then.
Me too. I was just looking, all right, Errol Goulden against the Bombers. We know that the Bombers midfield is very, very suspect defensively, but they are on the road. They're in Marvel. I am very, very, very I have 2 small children. I'm like, let's knock my VC out of the park on Friday night where I can have a few tins and cheer him on. And I just love Errol Goulden. So I was basically probably going to throw the VC on him.
Well, if you look at his, I'm just calling it up, his last 3 against Essendon, I think are pretty good.
I had a look at that. Actually.
149, 152, 130.
See, there is method to my madness here, Al. Just saying. And then I think outside of that, we did kick around the idea, I think, my biggest thing has been Noah Anderson all year. And what do we call him on this show? At home Noah Anderson.
Yeah,
he's been a hero more than he's been a villain.
Dominates.
When he's a villain, he's away from home Noah Anderson. And this is another team that stinks in terms of defensive stuff with their mids. that's the Melbourne Demons giving up plenty of big scores. So I'm obviously just struggling for survival at this point. So I might be just rolling the dice and going, whoa, Errol, and then into Noah on the Saturday, which is my week could just be over by Saturday afternoon. We're done. Pack her up, boys. But still, that's where I'm landing. Pig mentality. Where do you think you sort of initially land with some of your vibes from this week?
Do you, just before you go into it, do you have a thought before you look into the data, or do you try to be just completely data driven?
Yeah, no, a bit of both. I still use some gut feel. So generally I'll kind of get the fixture up and then I'll go straight into the data and see what's looking good. But there are some things that kind of skew the data sometimes, because especially when we look at kind of how players scored or what teams are giving up over the last 5 rounds. If that team has, say, played a heap of really, like, for example, Rowan Marshall looks like a really restrictive ruckman on paper just in the last 5 games. But it's because he hasn't played any of the really good rucks. He did limit Nank last week, which has surprised me. But it looks like he's a really restrictive ruckman, but, we've got years of data that says Rowan Marshall gives up lots of points to ruckman. So there are times where I'll use a gut feel and say, no, I don't actually think that's true. I think it's just because he's played, Bailey Williams and Oscar McInerney and guys that, don't normally score big. So, yeah, data mainly, but a bit of gut feel. This week, as I said, I haven't fully done the research yet. I'll usually do it today or Wednesday, and then the video comes out. So you'll get all the breakdown then. But just looking at it, there are a few guys. Like I was actually going to mention Noah Anderson at home against Melbourne.
Nice.
I think that's a really, really nice one. He just dominates at home, and Melbourne are not going so well right now.
We can use the word train wreck. I think that's happy. Yeah, that's all right.
They're a mess. So they're giving up lots of points. I'm just going to love Tristan Cherry against Tim English. Tim English is one of the worst, ruckman in terms of winning a hit-out percentage. He doesn't win the hit-out that much despite being a tall, athletic guy. Cherry, I think he's averaging 130 when he averages 40 or more hit-outs off the top of my head. So I expect him to probably do that again. I think he'll just destroy Tim English. Just looking at a few others, Sicily's got that Richmond matchup again.
Yeah.
So maybe that's an option. Or even guys like D'Ambrosio and Amon are actually doing pretty well. So I probably wouldn't VC them. Not many people own them. Looking at, Rowan Marshall against Geelong. I've been talking Rowan Marshall's kind of last 4 SuperCoach finals matchups up for a while, saying to people, if you only play leagues and you don't really care about your rank, you could get Rowan Marshall because he's going to come home like a steam train. Mm-hmm. I think he's got a 3-round average of 120, and now he's got Geelong this week. Yeah, Geelong then Carlton. So Rowan Marshall against Geelong, whichever ruckman they put out, they're just not restricting anyone. Carlton against West Coast, I think Nick Newman, I've been talking him up for a while. Yeah. It's having an insane defender run to come home. So he's got West Coast this week, then St Kilda next week. So if anyone needs a defender, trade him for pretty cheap. I'm big on Nick Newman. I think he could be a captain option this week. There's also sometimes, what do you guys think about trying to trade in players that are a real chance of a medal right now? I'm thinking Jesse Hogan, potentially 2 games left to win the Coleman, whether you'd actually VC him or see him, but I'm talking maybe more like a Charlie Curnow replacement. Or guys like Lachie Neale or Patrick Cripps really vying for that Brownlow. Do you reckon that's a thing that we should be looking at?
Coleman definitely is.
Yeah,
Jesse's going to have a shot every time.
He got Temps in last year for the last round, and he had kick 9 or something. Yeah, so it's sort of, your matchups sort of come into it obviously as well. But yeah, I think that is definitely something that could be going on. Not so sure about the Brownlow, but Coleman definitely. If Tom Hawkins plays in the last round against West Coast, I suppose you'd want Geelong to be safe in the top 4, but you think they're going to kick it to him 100 times, aren't they?
Yeah, that could be a fun little one, especially if you're a Geelong supporter.
Yeah.
If you've got one trade left, just bring him in. Yeah, that'd be fun.
Nice one. Captain score for you, Stats Boy.
I was just saying about Friday nights. I don't know if I should go Friday nights, but Heaney, I think he's back. He got 144 last week, and he got 128 against the Bombers earlier in the year. So I don't mind a bit of Heaney for that one. And then my captain, just going to go to the Bont. I'm a North supporter. Bont always dominates against us. I think he's had 157 and 169 in his last 2 against the Roos. the Bont is just going to have an absolute field day. He was playing injured out of the goal square. So anytime he's injured during the week, he just dominates, and he's always going to dominate against North. So got to go the Bont as captain.
Nice one, Al. What do you reckon?
Yeah, I like you touched on Lachie Neale. Obviously been frustrating own for me since I brought him in a few weeks ago. But yeah, against Collingwood, no tag. I think he will go pretty well. Nice VC option. And then I was really debating Cherry or Bont. But just what you've said there probably tips me towards Cherry. And looking at those hit-out stats that you mentioned, Tim English versus Riley O'Brien on the weekend, lost the hit-outs 58-16.
What is so
that sort of backs up your what you're saying about how Cherry could really. And the crazy thing about Cherry is I think he only had 5 hit-outs to advantage on the weekend and still scored 185. It was all like he had so much of the ball,
touches, 13 clearances,
a dozen tackles or something.
Yeah.
So he's just absolutely killing it.
Underperformed.
Yeah,
that's chaos.
Could have got 200.
So had a few hit-outs to advantage. And I think he'll be massive again on Sunday.
Nice. All right, there you go. This has been Pig Mentality on the official AFL SuperCoach show. This has been fantastic. Really enjoyed it. Thanks for jumping on, Mr. Mentality.
No problem. Thanks for having me, guys. It was good to jump on, talk some stats, talk some SuperCoach, and hopefully everyone that's in their league finals can get a win this week and get through to the granny.
Get everybody in the trough.
Yeah.
Just absolutely pigging out. Come on, let's do it. All right, there you go. All right, how good was that chat with Pig Mentality, or as he's known around these parts, Mr. Mentality? That was great.
Awesome.
Absolutely enjoyed that. Like, especially captain's call. Like, I think I do very easily just go, I spend a lot of time just going, that matchup, this matchup, cool, I just like this vibe, without really digging as far as I ought to. Just go, it'll be fine. And I think he said an amazing point there about how, you almost rely on them to play themselves back into form, like, because you believe in them, right? And it just doesn't work that way. Like, their form is their form. And if they eventually turn that around, it's just a weird thing to be riding, right? So,
and the great thing that Pig does too is like when you're talking about matchups, it's really specific to position. So you think, someone's playing the Eagles or someone's playing Richmond, they're obviously going to score well, although I think Richmond, you probably can say that. But it might be surprising that, Collingwood is a really easy team for midfielders to score against, and, it can be little factors like that can really make the difference.
Absolutely.
Nice. All right, let's do it. It's time for Running Hot. I love a bit of Running Hot. My man, number 3 at the moment. So this is your best 3-round averages, Al. This is awesome at the moment because he was one of my heroes earlier. Maximus Aurelius Gornicus, absolute legend of the game. 134.7 is his rolling 3-round average. Not bad from the big fella.
Not bad at all.
Not bad at all.
Isn't he injured?
I mean, who knows?
He's come back and been fine. He's tracking both ends, taking instant marks.
They keep showing photos of his leg. He's like, that's messed up. He's like, I'm still playing on it. Check this out. Number 2, Al.
Marcus Bontempelli, a little bit quieter on the weekend, played a bit more forward, still kicked a couple of goals and has a 3-round average of 136 and has a very nice matchup this weekend.
And Stats Boy, who's number 1?
Number 1, I'm very happy to talk about him. Big X, Tristan Jerry. He's been awesome. 163 round average, just unbelievable.
That's absurd.
He's just going, I'll get 180 on your head. Like every week you can just back him for that. I'm so annoyed I don't have him in my team, but his 3-round average is just unstoppable. Just gets a lot of touches. He had 30 touches on the weekend. 13 clearances with around the likes of Sheezel and LDU. He just goes, I'll just do it myself. Don't worry about it. So he's unbelievable.
And he has the Western Bulldogs this week as well. And we've just talked about this, about Tinglish and ruck scoring. Just saying, not bad. Righto, let's do it. Quick fire round, quickly. Boys, who does Toby Bedford tag versus Freo? This is a really, really good question. Sarong, Hayden Young, question mark?
I don't know if he's big enough for Hayden Young. Maybe though.
Yeah, I mean, if I was the opposition coach, which I'm clearly not, but I would look at Hayden Young because he's just so damaging when he gets the ball and those kicks inside 50 really, result in scores. So Sarong's more your sort of workhorse who gets you 35 touches, but I wonder if he could go to Young. But as you say, he's a bit of a taller mid, so does the matchup work?
You're right, because Sarong and Brayshaw just use their hands a lot. Whereas
Brayshaw's the other one.
Young off halfback, or when he comes off halfback or through the midfield, he's just gone forward every single time. Whereas Brayshaw and Sarong might just use their hands. So I would be going to Young. I just don't know if that matchup is right. But Bedford is a lot stronger and a lot better at tagging than I ever thought he would be. So yeah, probably Young.
Nice one. Will you start Clayton Oliver next year? I'm certainly not going to until I see otherwise, Al.
Well, it's just like if you look at the raw numbers, he averages 120 every year for 6 years in a row. This year, he's only gone over 105 times, scored 38 on the weekend. He's now only 404,000.
It's going to be very
cheap. Exactly. That's going to be so tempting. I mean, it really is we're just going to be watching his preseason to see.
Does he do preseasons anymore? I don't know.
Yeah, I
We'll
mean,
have to wait and see.
Will it be with Melbourne? Is the question.
Oh,
that's another factor.
I'm saying no. I don't want anything to do with him.
This is the one where I reckon I might say no now, but
then when
you
he
know, he
sees
comes out
Price-
and scores 150 in the preseason
What's
comp.
this? Oh, that's a nail, and that's me hitting it on the head. Al has absolutely nailed this one.
I'm staying away from it no matter
No chance. It'll be like February next year. I'm like, Clayton Oliver, 400 grand.
Because yeah,
Oh, if I just downgrade one of my mids to Clayton Oliver, I could get someone else that I want.
I love it. The last of the quickfire round questions. Will we ever pick a key forward again? Oh, boy. I might be about to,
nah.
depending on how Harry Mackay is doing. But this is it. We've hit on this a couple of times this season. We even threw out some names. I know earlier in the season we were looking at like Harry had been playing across the ruck, had gotten a lot of touches. Obviously, Charlie Curnow's run home looks so enticing. It's completely backfired and blown up in everyone's face. Picking key forwards, we know that it's rife with problems. But if you had have just stuck with Jesse Hogan, you'd be laughing now. I'm just saying.
Great, yeah.
Well, I know Patch isn't here today, but he picked Jesse Hogan in round 1, and then it was all part of a complicated strategy to then trade him out at the GWS buy and all that sort of thing. But yeah, maybe you should have just hung on to him for the whole year.
Patch with a complicated strategy. I find him surprised. But key forwards, what do you reckon, stats boy?
That's my number one rule in SuperCoach is I never ever pick a key forward. I only pick from the very start of the year. If they play a bit of midfield, they're in my forward line. So I stay away from them. And as we've seen this year, they just somehow get injured every 2 weeks.
I just keep getting sucked back into them. Last year I had Tom Hawkins and Tex Walker at different stages.
Tex was great last year.
And it's really about the timing. And if you just have them for a couple of weeks, it can sometimes pay off. But yeah, like I targeted Curnow after the buys, which I know a lot of people did, thinking he had a great 6 or 7 weeks.
Yeah, I don't think that was a bad
pickup. He put a couple of hundreds up, but then scores in the 30s and then getting injured. And it's just been terrible. So yeah, definite word of warning. But forwards next year are going to be pretty grim. It was hard this year, and we're going to lose some of them.
They're all going to be mids anyway.
Exactly. So yeah, we might get forced into it. But
nice one. Well, I mean, on top of that, like outside of it's now not quickfire, but like your top forwards are Sam Flanders, Isaac Heaney, Dane Zorko, Jai Caldwell, Dylan Moore, Luke Jackson, then Jesse Hogan at 7, right?
And 3 or 4 of them
like
forwards.
those top 4 probably won't be available next year.
Which is very sad.
Then we go A and B, Alex Neil-Bullen, Joe Danaher.
No,
the drop-off is remarkable.
That shows how bad the forwards have been this year.
Next year is going to be brutal.
Hope we get some good rookies in the forward line next year.
Yeah. Righto, quickly, it's a game of names, name games. I was on holidays and I still won. Fantastic. Going back to week 20, I think it was. Dacos versus Neil. I won that one. I had Dacos. He had the 147 a couple of weeks ago. This week, however, I think we're going to go Anderson versus Cherry. Is that right, Al?
Yeah, surely Cherry. I haven't been great at these head-to-heads, it's fair to say, but I've got the pig mentality stats to back me up here, so I'm going to back in Cherry to go absolutely bonkers again, although I do think Noah Anderson, if you could somehow squeeze him into midfield this week, he would be a great trade-in.
Well, he's always known here on the SuperCoach show as at home, Noah Anderson. So don't prove me wrong, Noah Anderson. Go absolutely bananas. Give me a massive score. That'd be really appreciated. All right, Monday moves. Before we go, does anybody have any trades left?
Nope.
I have one. So it's Jim's trades, apparently. Charlie Curnow. So my first initial look at this was, all right, cool. I have Charlie Curnow. I have to make this move, possibly. Harry. We're playing, the Eagles are pretty shocking.
He's going to kick a few goals.
He could kick a bag of 10. Let's go. Harry McTurden. And then the news just breaks that he might also be an injury cloud, and I'm just like, going to go ram my head against the wall a few more times because that might be more fun than trying to figure out what I'm going to do this week.
Just bring in Jed Walter because you love him.
I do. But at the same time, so Matthew Kennedy, we took this out. That's probably going to be the trade. I will go back and forth all week, no doubt, on who I trade Charlie out for. Matthew Kennedy's right there.
Tom Powell,
I'm not really. I've only got 17 in the bank, 17,000 in the bank. So I don't know if I can actually afford the likes of Tom Powell, which is brutal to say. But outside of that, the options are essentially Harry, Joey Danaher. I don't really like that matchup against Collingwood. Kyle Langford, Brian Myers, Kennedy. It's just the J train, like against the Blues. Maybe the J train goes absolutely ham. I can't do it though. So it's very, very, very thin on the ground.
What if Curnow gets up? He's obviously probably be a bit dodgy potentially, but
fair in the square.
Would you, exactly, but would you hang on, try and save the trade then for grand final week?
I probably would. I'd probably maybe Yeah, just hold on to it for that one more week. You can't spend it when you're dead. So I don't know, but maybe I'll just use it anyway just because I don't know how well it'll go. But
spend it, yeah.
I think I might. It's in the chamber. You might be pulling the trigger. All right. There you go. That's it for the Round 23 preview show for the AFL SuperCoach show. Remember to subscribe to SuperCoach Plus. Take your game to the next level. Follow all things Code Sports for the latest AFL SuperCoach news and analysis. And if you haven't already, rate and review on Apple, Spotify. Subscribe to Code Sports on YouTube. All the good stuff there. You'll get notifications when they come out. It's great when you subscribe. And for all the news and fun gear, smash the AFL Today show. Thanks once more to Pig Mentality. That was a great chat. Thank you to the Stats Boy for jumping on, Liam McAllion.
Thanks. Good to be back.
Okay, that's the last time you're going to be on, though. That's fine. And thanks to Al, because he's a legend.
Thank you, James. And just one last comment. If people have feedback or suggestions or things you'd like to see on the show, probably looking ahead to next year, given that we've only got one or two of these left. We'll try and do some episodes in the off season, so that's something we're very keen to get into. But leave a comment and we'll be, we love to review the season at the end of the year, which is coming up pretty quick, and we can workshop that into what we do for next season.
Yeah, I think what I've really enjoyed this year as like a listener and on the show is like when you dig into the top level coaches, and when we've had a couple of them on the show, it's been fantastic, right? Like getting that slightly different successful perspective has been really cool. I've really enjoyed that. So either way, there we go. I've been James Clements. Happy super coaching.